Hey guys, welcome to the Limitless Podcast. Exciting day today. Joining us as always is your co-host, Dr. Matthew Preston. Hail up the people in Matthew.
Hey guys, what's good?
And I'm Thaon Simms. Now, as you guys all know, and if you don't know, that's fine, but IPO. Right back again. Yo, the market's hot, don't it, Preston?
Yeah, very, very hot. Very, very second
Market
IPO
is
of the year.
getting
And we only
second
got
IPO.
one last year, I think.
Yeah,
Was it one GS and it was
yeah.
late in the year
It
too?
was-
So
Exactly. So this is good news. I always love a good IPO, and this one is RA Williams. Did you know
Mhm.
RA Williams before all of this? Like before the prospectus, before everything?
Yes. So I think they were mentioned in some articles once, like about there was this article that spoke about the National Health Fund, and there was a contract, or there were some contracts that some drug distributors were bidding for and had won, and they were one of the people that were mentioned. So I saw like things like Lasco distributors, but I also saw RA Williams. But I guess technically now I see some of the drugs that they distribute, and then I'm like, oh, I actually, maybe prescribe that one or know someone that prescribed the drug. So now it's like making sense. But yeah.
If you guys didn't know before, Matthew Preston's actually a medical doctor. So I guess he prescribed some of these drugs, which is cool. But let's get into it. Let's at least talk to the people. Thank you guys for being here. If you guys love the episodes, drop a like, subscribe, and we're jumping right in. So, RA Williams, it's a pharmaceutical distribution company, right? So they distribute a lot of generic drugs. In fact, all they distribute right now is actually generic drugs. And they're distributed to pharmacies, health centers, hospitals, doctors' offices, clinics, all of those kind of places, all across Jamaica, right? We see a lot of their medications. I will go through some of them. Distribution companies, the whole pharmacy industry. I love it. It's not too complex, what it can be, but it's just like you have, the people that manufacture the drugs, you have the people that distribute the drugs, you have research, you have retail,
People that
you
prescribe the
have
drugs.
people that prescribe the drugs, right? And you have people that take the drugs, the consumers, the customers. Did you know that it takes about 20 years for like a patent on a drug? Like the typical patent on a drug is 20 years. Like if you, Matthew Preston, do some research and you find this wonder cancer drug and so on, and you go for a patent for it, you can be the only person that sells that kind of drug for 20 years. I didn't know that until reading the prospectus.
So one of the interesting things, there was, I guess like you'd say a course I was doing where I learned about the medical industry and some of that stuff. So even though it's 20 years total, the thing is, it's not like most of the companies actually get to sell it for the full 20 years, because part of that process, there are certain things that you have to be doing. So you don't actually end up selling it for the 20 years. You may end up selling it for, say, 10 years or 12 years or something, because part of the development process is included in that, which is kind of weird. So you don't just, okay, the drug is now finished, I've done all the work, now I get 20 years straight just me selling this one drug. It's not like that straightforward.
True, because I know they said it's when you get the patent of the drug.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, but you mentioned that term though. Like, what's generic? Like, what do you mean? You said,
true.
yeah.
So they're typically, we can classify them. Drugs can be classified in several different ways, but you have brand names and generic drugs. Generic drugs are typically the cheaper option. Typically, they're not associated with any. Well, how would I describe generic versus brand?
What I would say is that you go back to the same thing you were talking about, where, say, a lot of people know Panadol. You know, Panadol, the actual chemical that's Panadol, is, well, just, you guys don't need to know the name, but it's acetaminophen, right? So different things like Panadol, Tylenol, Cetamol, they all have the same main chemical, which is acetaminophen. So I don't know who was the first person that developed acetaminophen and was like, okay, you can use this medication to help relieve fevers, reduce pain. That person
Mm-hmm.
that company had to spend lots of money developing it, and lots of resources, and then they got the patent for it, and then that time period passed, and then eventually other companies could now um, they could now sell acetaminophen, and they could name it Panadol. They could do whatever different names that they
Mm-hmm.
like. Some of them are catchy. So my
Yeah.
understanding was that the brand name one, the reason the brand name drug is more expensive is because it's made by the company who essentially had to take on all of those costs and expenses to develop it,
And it's
versus the
also
generic one.
protected. It's also protected by the patent.
Yeah,
So I know a
well,
lot of
even when the
brand name
patent
drugs are.
expires, though, that's what I was saying, that like the generic one, that person didn't have to spend all of that research and effort, or as much
Mm-hmm.
as the person who developed the brand name one. So they can sell it for a lot cheaper because there's like, they don't have all of those costs. And I mean, you could have
Yeah.
taken on loans and all that stuff that you didn't have to pay back. So then that's where the
Mm-hmm.
generic drugs come in. So RA Williams only, as you mentioned, only distributes generic drugs, which are essentially the same thing, but it's just much more affordable. So they're like
Yeah.
a budget one. Some companies that we'll probably talk about, we'll get into it, they do both generic and brand name drugs. Or maybe there's even, well, I don't think there's any that maybe just the brand name, but most would either do either both or maybe just generic.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because they would have basically the same active ingredients. They're
Mm-hmm.
just they're different in terms of maybe like pricing, because of
Mm-hmm.
brands have to spend more on marketing.
Market. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
previously, as you say, you have to develop the drug. You have to spend a lot of money on R&D, which is research and development. You have to promote it, all of those kind of things. So
Mm-hmm.
fair. Um,
Mm-hmm.
did you know? Well, obviously but just for the viewers, when you write a prescription, at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom of the prescription, like let's say you're writing a drug like Panadol, you can
Mm-hmm.
write Panadol, but you can tick at the bottom of it or somewhere. So on some prescriptions, you'll say generic. So
Mm,
that would
yeah,
tell
yeah,
the
yeah.
pharmacist, yeah, you can either give them the brand name, which is Panadol, or you
Mm-hmm.
can write out Tylenol. Or if you tick generic, if you write out Tylenol and tick generic, you can just give anything that has acetaminophen as the active ingredient,
Mm-hmm.
um, as a replacement. So
Most of the
yeah,
drug reps don't
brand.
like that though.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't want you
Yeah,
to
they
write.
don't.
They don't want you to
They
write
don't.
their specific drug. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And I think it has to do with their compensation. I believe. I
Mm-hmm.
think they earn based on how many doctors are prescribing their kind of medication. The pharmacy
Mm-hmm.
industry, I like it, bro. It's competitive, and we'll see how
Mm-hmm.
competitive it is for RA Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I can see you sharing your screen.
Mm-hmm.
On the
This was just
screen for the
showing
audio
essentially what you're
listeners.
saying. Oh yes,
Yeah.
guys. Well, this is the reminder too. We are on YouTube, so which try to share our screen. We're gonna show parts of the prospectus, different things that can maybe kind of help you understand more. So this is your reminder that you should check us out on YouTube and subscribe if you haven't.
Mm-hmm. So I know they collect all their drugs from manufacturing companies within India and Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
In the prospectus, it shows just those two countries.
Mm-hmm. You can probably pull it up.
Yeah,
There was like a little
and
image. It's like kind of even split.
very close from what I remember. It's almost 50-50. But yeah, and these are huge drug manufacturers. We're talking manufacturers like Indus, manufacturers like Arista Pharma, right? Square Pharmaceuticals, MSN.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, they have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of partnerships with these drug manufacturers. And you said
Mm-hmm.
some are exclusive, some are non-exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them actually are exclusive. If you go through the prospectus, they have
Mm-hmm.
quite a few exclusive
I think it's like
contracts, meaning they're the
60%,
only ones.
like the
Yeah,
majority,
around
I
that.
guess.
It's
Mm-hmm.
majority, meaning they're the only ones that can distribute these type of drugs within the region or
Jamaica.
within Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And the other
and
thing we can do is like they go into the different categories of drugs. So it's not like, oh, just one type of drug. Like, for example, and they even give a nice breakdown where they told you what percentage, I think, up to a certain point. So the most common drug that they distribute are the antibiotics. So this would be, someone has an infection, like a bacterial infection, like a throat infection, ear infection, lung,
It's
whatever,
funny. I don't know
urine.
if they said antibiotics. That's actually. I think they use a similar word, anti something, but I don't think it was antibiotics. But that's just semantics, really and truly. I think some stuff are probably antivirals, some are probably antifungals as well. So I think it's probably just anti-pathogens. I don't know the word they actually use, but yeah, you can continue. That was just me.
Yeah. So, and then they use like a lot of eye drops. So, different eye conditions, what they call ophthalmic drugs. So I think you mentioned that you prescribed some before.
Oh, yes, yes. And for those that don't know, I'm also a medical doctor. Yes, yes. But yeah, I do prescribe quite a bit. So some of the eye, I guess ophthalmic drugs that they use, like Aristobet. I use Aristobet all the time, right? They have Aristobet N, and you can use that for both, eyes, ears. I use
Like,
this a
what's with
lot,
the eyes? Like, what's going on with someone's eyes? Why they would use that, or why you'd prescribe that for a patient?
It depends on the type of. So I don't want to get too specific, but conjunctivitis. There are different types.
What's
You have
conjunctivitis, really?
inflammation of the conjunctiva, so it's like the outer layer of the eye, one of the outer layers of the eye, and basically, you say
It's
like
like a type
red
of eye
eyes,
infection,
watery
basically.
eye, itchy eye. Yes, and it doesn't
Or it can
necessarily
be a
have to
type
be
of infection.
infection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just inflammation overall. Because you can have allergic conjunctivitis, and they have Staphen eye drops, which I would use for that too. So, it's good for allergies. Like if you have red, itchy, watery eyes sometimes, and you're sneezing a lot and so on, come visit Dr. Thaon Simms. But yeah, I use a lot of their products. And they started with eye drops, I believe.
Well, you use them or you prescribe them?
Prescribe them, sorry.
Okay.
The only one I've used. All right, this isn't free advertise. They have given me no money, guys. They have not paid me anything. But if you guys looking for sponsors, I joke. Hope you guys can see. So this is Amino Pep. It's a multivitamin. I don't use it as much because it really does open up my appetite, and I'm trying to lose weight right now. But it's really good in terms of like all the vitamins, and you have a lot of B vitamins that you'd need, and some good amino acids within them, and so on. So I like Amino Pep. I prescribe it a lot to a lot of my patients as well, and that's by Indus. Indus has the drug rep from Indus, or that you know sells Indus products for this region, and one of them, my brethren Patrick. Patrick and I have done quite a few things with a lot of medical companies, and he supported us, in sponsoring certain events and so on. And in turn, yeah, that's the relationship between drug reps and these kind of companies and doctors and medical facilities. It's a very close knit kind of relationship, because when you used to go to clinic, didn't drug reps used to come around? I think that's how way they increase their sales. They go to different places. They'll probably go to
They
UE
sometimes
and
give
so on,
out.
go to your
I
clinic.
think I had got Amino Pep. Like someone, the drug rep gave it and said, "Oh, if you have patients that need it, I think new gel too. Like this one, something for like his stomach and stuff." So yeah,
New gel, yeah, new gel. Oh, yeah, that's good for like reflux and gastritis.
heartburn.
Yeah, yeah. And Dresv, I know maybe some women might be familiar with those kind of medications, and they have a lot of pain meds too that I realize people use. So they
They
have
showed
quite a
it.
few.
There was some that I had heard about or have heard patients. Let me show it. So this is. Oh, I should just a reminder to guys. A lot of the information that we're telling you is from the prospectus, and usually like every offer, it's like the prospectus is like the legal document that will tell you, okay, what about the company, how they make money, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I think I know Zerodol P. This was one of the
Mm-hmm.
painkillers. I think it's like, it might be Panadol plus something else, or it's like a NSAID, which is like a type of painkiller. Algic P is another painkiller. So, and you mentioned like Dresv gel there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I say Glyri. I think Glyri is, I think it's Glimepiride. I could be wrong. But it's a sulfonylurea, which, it just lowers blood sugar. So it's an anti-diabetic drug. All right. So as Preston showed the different, the breakdown in terms of the type of medications, whether it's analgesics like pain meds, or whether it's, antibiotics, hypertension and diabetes, and so on. And I think that breakdown, if it was a very comprehensive breakdown within the prospectus, you can kind of tell where they're strategically positioning themselves, and the based on their target customers and so on. So if, let's say, all right, not if, I'm not going to use hypotheticals. Currently in Jamaica and globally, right, we have aging population. We've been seeing, like, I don't know if you saw news articles about, declining birth rates and so on, but we have an aging population, and it will continue to age. And as you get older, age is one of the greatest risk factors for a lot of NCDs, which is non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, etc. Right? And a lot of these
Very
medications are,
prevalent in Jamaica.
yeah, very, very. You have a graph up there, isn't it? Is that
Yeah. Well,
hypertension?
this was just a thing, but I think there was an article that I was reading. It was saying that 30% of the population, of the Jamaican population, has high blood pressure, or what most people know as, well, hypertension, or what most people know as high blood pressure, and like 12.5% have diabetes, or what people call sugar. So the same point you're saying, that if our population has a high risk of these conditions, then they can literally, and the thing is, the same point you made, these conditions, like, a lot of times you're always going to have them, essentially. So like, you can control it with, lifestyle, exercise, and all that stuff, but sometimes that isn't enough. So like, oh, you can't just eat less salt and your blood pressure will necessarily lower to the amount it should lower. Sometimes you'll also need medication too. And the thing is, once you have it, it's not really going to go away a lot of times. So it's like you're kind of stuck, and you're going to always have to be buying the medication every month, Yeah. So those kind of things, that's kind of the benefit. Versus like you meant when it was talking about antibiotics, people aren't usually on antibiotics for lifelong. It's like, you go on for like 5 days, 7 days, maybe sometimes 2 weeks. But most of the times it's just like a few days, really.
Short
or
course.
the same thing you're talking about with the eye drops. If it's eye drops because of an eye infection, you probably just have it for like a few days, a few weeks. The painkiller thing is interesting too, because depending on the cause of the pain, it could be something where it's like you're gonna always need it on and off and stuff like that. So those kind of drugs, it's interesting because it's something that people are gonna always need.
Can you go to page 55 in the prospectus? It shows the distribution of the NHF, and we should talk about the NHF. Actually, we should really touch on the NHF. But if you look, the second highest thing outside of the others category is actually arthritis. I have a ton of patients with arthritis. Like a ton of patients with arthritis. And yes, age is one of the biggest risk factors, and it depends on the type of arthritis. There's several
what is arthritis?
Causes. Inflammation on the joints. Good questions, actually. Yes, inflammation
pain and
of the
swelling,
joints,
like different types. There's
pain, neck pain,
and then
knee
points
pain.
into the same point you're making, that the aging population, one of the most common types of arthritis, which is osteoarthritis, which is the arthritis most people know, is like, as you get older and things like that, your joints, it's like your joints have, how much should we, let's see.
Yeah, your joints have the protective layer.
Yeah, cartilage. I was gonna try show like a picture of it. What's a good picture? So you can see this one here.
Yeah.
So this blue thing here, which is what you know as the cartilage, is like the same thing in your ear. This is essentially protecting the joint so that they can rub against each other. So over time, as you get older and older, it essentially wears down. And then when you don't have as much cartilage, it's like the bone is rubbing against the bone. And so the bone
That
will
causes
start to like
inflammation.
hurt and swell up and get red and all of that. So
Yeah.
stuff like that. I guess this is what's showing you like a picture here. So this is what it would look like healthy. And then the osteoarthritis, you see how that blue, you're not having that full blue. Yeah. So drugs like that, I see why it makes sense that they, you know, would go after that.
Yeah, no, I think it's yeah, and a lot of those drugs are on the
NHF.
VEN list.
Or
Yeah,
the
NHF. VEN
yeah,
is vital, essential, and necessary
you
drugs.
can get it covered or reduced with the NHF card.
Yeah.
The National Health Fund card, yeah. Yeah, yo, that really helps out a lot of stuff, you know, like I've had patients where they show me like they tell me how much they can save, and it's like serious money, especially if it's a drug like the pressure and the sugar ones that you're gonna always need. Like think of how much money you can save after 10 years, 20 years of being on a medication. That's why sometimes it hurts me when there's people who like get it with the NHF and then they don't take it. Because it's just like, yo, that's a lot of money that you have sitting down there. Like to you, it's not much because it's like, oh, I just swipe the card and I get a lot of it covered. But it's like, you know,
to the government, they're spending a lot of money.
Yeah,
to
the government is the money has to come from somewhere.
Exactly. I agree. And you know, whenever I have a patient, and they have chronic illnesses, first thing I ask, or one of the first things I ask, is if they have an NHF card.
And you fill out
because
the form.
like people need to know how much you can save with NHF. Like you can save a ton of money. Like I will have a patient and they're on medications, and their medications will cost them like 20 grand a month, and with NHF it drops to like 3-4 grand, even probably
this
less.
This is the form here.
Yeah, and it takes it takes like 10 minutes to get that card. You know, time. When you fill it out and you drop it off, I think the main office is off somewhere near Kingston.
There are multiple places I can get it.
Yeah, you just hand it in, wait 10 minutes, you get your card, and that's it for you get a wicked subsidy off of a lot of your medications and so on. So yeah, I mean look into that for about your friends, your families, guys. Check if they do have an NHF card. And there's also the JADEP card, which is Jamaica boy, something for his elderly program. Hold on, I have to write it out. I actually don't remember. It's the elderly program. It's like drugs for elderly program.
Jamaica drug. So the Jamaica drug for the elderly program.
There we go. See, I got it at the end.
Jamaica drug for the elderly pro.
Yeah, but the JADEP
is the wording card of it kind of weird.
It is. Jamaica it's also another card that you can use. I think you have to
like reach 60 or 65.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get subsidized. Yeah, you get a lot of things subsidized too. You can have both cards.
The NHF thing is a big deal because one of the things they mentioned in the prospectus, and there was an article that I saw, I think last year, that made me mention it or made me think of RA Williams. So the NHF, essentially Jamaican government, what they were doing was that they had some contracts that people could essentially bid on. So they're like, okay, we want these medications because, you know, patients in Jamaica need them. So we want someone to have that partnership with like a manufacturer, import the drugs and help distribute it to all of these different places in Jamaica, the pharmacies, the hospitals, the clinics. And so they didn't just want one person to do all of it for Jamaica. They essentially had like a bid, and like people had to submit bids, and then they were awarded contracts. So RA Williams mentions here that, and this was, I think, August last year. So it's already started. and they mentioned that they got the contract that they won, which lasts 3 years. So, and they're already, it's almost, I guess, 1 year on the way to 1 year after. So it's 2 more years, I guess, of 3.2 million. So I did
3.2 million
US,
JMD?
3.2 million US.
Mm-hmm.
So you see my screen here?
Sorry.
Oh,
yes, I am.
Oh, whoa, what did I just do? Okay, thought I was gonna full screen it, but yeah. So if you see, so they actually mention the article breaks down who got the largest portion of contracts, which is actually interesting because a lot of you notice that a lot of the companies are either directly listed or they have like kind of indirectly listed or so.
Yeah.
So for example, Last D won the biggest part of it, and Last D is listed. They won their part of it was worth about 14% of the overall thing, which is like almost 4 billion. Carimed was second. Facey, which is like linked to like Separate Mussins, Massey, which is already listed, or the Massey Pharmaceutical arm, and even these other competitors like I've never heard of before, Ethnor del Isto SA. They're apparently from Panama. TS Farm Inc. They're from the US. T Geddes Grant is related to Mussin. So these were like the top 7. So RA Williams actually wasn't in the top 7. When I look at it, they were, well, they didn't give the rest for me to say, but the percentage was about 2%, or when you convert the 3.2 million, it's just about 500 million Jamaican, or 2%. So you can kind of, I guess, have an idea of how large they are compared to some of their competitors. The other thing I did was, so Last D does more than just distribute pharmaceuticals, because Last D does regular Lasco's distribution, so the manufacturing arm. So, you know, the iCool or all those different snacks and drinks. But when I looked in the Last D report, they actually show the audited for March 2024 gives you a breakdown for the pharmaceutical division. So I was able to like get an idea of what kind of revenues the pharmaceutical arm of Last D itself is doing. So when I worked it out, it was just under 5 billion, and they're making like 260 mil profit, and their net profit margin is about 5% versus RA Williams. Theirs is about 1.5 billion, but they have like a similar net profit margin. I tried to find it for MDS, Medical Disposable, which is another listed company that essentially does, but they don't just distribute pharmaceutical supply, they distribute other hospital supplies. But then they gave the breakdown for the pharmaceutical division. The only thing is that they didn't give I didn't see the net profit. I only saw the growth profit. But then as you can see the revenue there, that's like 2.5 billion. So you could kind of say that they are kind of one of the smaller players. But you know, the whole thing of the fact that they're smaller, they kind of have more room to grow. So it's easier for them to double their revenue versus Last D, pharmaceutical arm, which is at 5 billion. But that was interesting that I saw. Like, it's interesting because in the prospectus, they have a part where they show their competitors. They mentioned the 27 billion, but so they show their competitors here. But the interesting part is that they don't show. I guess it's because they're not Jamaican, like the Ethnor. But the thing is, just because they're not Jamaican, they're competing for a Jamaican contract. So I found that interesting. So you can kind of, I guess, have an idea of the size that they are compared to some of their competitors. But the NHF thing is a big deal because it doesn't just stop at the 27 billion. I think in the article, I should show the article I'm talking about. They actually mentioned, so this article, August last year, they mentioned that even though it is 27 billion to start, I think they said they want to increase it. So it's not just stopping at that. Like, there's going to be some other, my understanding was that there's going to be, see it here. So they said, these contracts being signed today, which was August last year, are valid at 27 billion. And it says this, as we make an effort to do as much as we can to safeguard against shortages, because I don't want people to run out of medications, because that's another tough thing. When you run out of the drugs, people need it. Like, their condition isn't going away. That's a really tough thing. I've had to deal with that with patients. And it's like you're running around. Like, imagine your patient, like your dad or someone, has high blood pressure, and they've been on this drug and it's working. They're doing their diet, they're doing their exercise, but they need the medication to control it. And if maybe they've had like a stroke or a heart attack before, so if it's not controlled, that could end up happening. But imagine like you can't afford, you can't really afford the drug, or maybe there's like a more affordable one that you need, like for example the generic one, but you just can't get it. All the pharmacies are just like, yo, we're out. It's gonna take a month, 2 months for us to get back. You don't want that, you know. So they say, in fact, that figure is set to increase to over 30 billion as further contracts will be awarded. So I'm hoping that they can be competitive in some of those contracts, because that's a big deal. Like that's possibly over 3 billion more on the table, and that's a big deal for them if they can be competitive. So yeah.
Have you seen, so in the prospectus it also shows the trend in terms of how much the contract values that they've had over the years, right? And it started at 84.
Which page is that?
56. It started at 84,000, and now it's 3.2 mil over the years. It's been increasing in size. So yeah, I agree. I hope they are more competitive, especially because it's generics, and generics should be cheaper than a lot of
especially
the brand
in a developing
name
country. We're like a low income developing country, so I don't think we're gonna be forking out the brand name. We don't have a lot of health insurance and those kind of stuff. So yeah,
exactly.
That's
We're
wicked
significantly
growth, yo.
underinsured. Yeah. I mean, how else? They stated how they could grow. I was thinking about it, because they could either find new manufacturers with different type of drugs, so they could be distributing different products. They can also distribute different products from the same manufacturers.
I think they mentioned, I think 2 manufacturers. Didn't they sign like 2 manufacturers last year or something like that?
MSN.
I think they mentioned that they developed like some new partnerships last year. There was a part where they show it, but yeah, continue your point. I'll try to find it while.
Oh, well, my point was just in terms of growth, because as you said, it's very competitive, right? And you can see the competitors. It's the competitors are real in that whole ecosystem. And they list them. You have Carmed, and Carmed does some manufacturing. They do a lot more distribution, but they're a behemoth. They're one of the largest players in the Caribbean, right? And then you have Facey Commodity. Facey does a ton of other
and some
drugs.
of them have they've been around for longer too. I remember this is like a new company. I think it's only like less than 15
been around
years.
For 8 years.
Yeah.
Less than 50. I think it's only been 12 years for RA Williams. They're pretty young, but they've grown significantly, right?
I think that it started out as a pharmacy, I think. Like they said, because one of the interesting parts that we should have mentioned, that this business, like, they like to stress, I noticed they stressed it multiple points in the prospectus, that it's like a pharmacist-owned business. Like a lot of the owners and the workers there, a lot of them are pharmacists. So it's like they're saying that they know the industry. The directors, I think the CEO, a lot of
the co-founders,
a lot of them are pharmacists.
Yeah, they are pharmacists. The CEO is Audley Reed. I think he is also a pharmacist. Yes. Wait, no, he serves.
Yeah, he is. So CEO, registered pharmacist. The CQO is a pharmacist.
Chief Quality Officer.
COO is a pharmacist. Some of the directors, clinical pharmacists, a lot of them are pharmacists.
Yeah. I kind of like that, because they know the business and they know the industry.
Not just that I like, though. You meant the other thing.
I know exactly what
management owns skin in the game. Where is it?
Skin in the game.
Skin in the game. Where is? So there's a top shareholder list. A lot of these.
This is something Preston and I love, by the way. Love to see.
I think it's something everybody should love. So if you notice this in the prospectus,
go higher. Go above that. Yeah, there. That one.
No, because this shows the post. This shows post IPO. So I was saying that when if you notice, a lot of these names here all of these names are people who work in the company. They actually own like a decent portion of the company. So it's like, and they're not selling. There isn't like a selling shareholder. All of these new shares are being issued, which is important to look at with an IPO, because all the money that is being raised is going towards the company, versus what you can have is where you have someone who's a selling shareholder. You can have a mix where, say, I own 10% of the company. I want to sell my stake in the company to the public, but then the company is also going to create some additional shares, which will be add to another 10%. And then, so some of that money will go to me because it's my shares that I own, versus shares that the company created. No one owned it yet. And then the public is buying in. So all the money that's being raised, which is the 400 million, is going to the company versus to other shareholders. So all these people that you're seeing, a lot of them own the part of the company, guys. So they're in the same boat as us. If the share price drop, they'll see
Their
it.
value drop.
I mean, so many people don't care about the share price dropping, but I'm just saying, if the share price go up, they also feel it too. So I love that. Like, I really like seeing stuff like this. Enough people to, it's not just like, sometimes you see some companies, it's just like top management owns it, but even like directors and other stuff. I like that.
Yeah, skin in the game, 100%. Yeah. Something I love to see as well.
But you're mentioning how they grow. It's either they can look for example, say I'm a company in India, Bangladesh, whatever other country. I make this drug, and suppose it's like a new hypertension drug or high blood pressure drug, and it's like, it's very, very effective. It's much more effective than a lot of the other drugs. And Jamaica is like, hey, we want this drug. If RA Williams, or by the way, what do you think the ticker is gonna be? You think RA? I said it in our group from the drop. I was like, yo, I think it could be RA.
It would
I
be
don't know.
cool
What else would
if
they
it was
do?
raw.
RA?
Yeah, I have no.
Because how many,
I
is there a
have
limit
no
to how
idea.
many letters? You can have RA.
Can you? They're
SG?
yes, you can, because
Isn't it like
SJ.
SG or SJ?
Well,
Yeah.
not SJ, but yeah.
SJ, yeah. So is that a RA or RAW? I don't know.
I feel like
Unless they
should do
unless they try
RAW.
to do one where it's like drug.
Pharma.
Nah.
Or drug.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. Vote. Oh, guys, comment below. What do you think the ticker is gonna be? And the ticker, for those that don't know, is essentially how the stock is represented on like the Jamaica Stock Exchange website. So if you look at, for example, this that I'm using here, other companies like 138SL is the ticker. It's like the shortening for 138. You see it below, 138 Student Living, 1GS for One Great Studio. So let's see what the ticker for RA Williams will be. But sidetrack, what I was saying was that, say there's that company, they made that drug, it's a new drug, high blood pressure, diabetes. Oh, it's much more effective. People are able to lower their blood pressure way more than the others. The government of Jamaica says, hey, we have a ton of people with high blood pressure. We want to get this in because maybe it's much more. You meant things like that, like as a government, that you have to think about, because say you can lower the blood pressure of a ton of people, and then those people who their blood pressure is more controlled are less likely to die from a heart attack or a stroke or all of those. There's so many complications. They're less likely to have heart issues. They're less likely to clog up the system and be in the hospital, and it costs more money. Like, it's better to treat it early and catch it and manage it versus wait until the end, and the complications and the end point is much harder. Yeah. So maybe they're like, okay, we want
the loss of life too. You know, that impacts the government directly.
Yeah, because you
less workers, and more, or even they have to pay more for their treatment.
Think about it: people lose their father or their mother or their significant other, and then imagine a child then growing up with like one less parent. Like, there's so many implications of stuff like that. I mentioned like that's the kind of stuff our government has to think about. But yeah, essentially they could be bringing in new drugs that Jamaica doesn't have yet. Or, for example, it could be a drug that maybe is even being sold here, but suppose they can even bring it in more affordable. Suppose there's the brand name of it, but then they're like, hey, we're going to bring in the generics for it, and it's much more affordable. It can save the government this amount of money, and we can bring in enough product. And then also the Ministry of Health, I think they mentioned that there was somewhere where they mentioned that they, I think, have spoken to the ministry, and they have applied to bring in some Oh yeah, they said ophthalmology or eye drugs, diabetes drugs, and hypertension drugs, and they're hoping to get that within this financial year, which would start May this year. Would have started May this year, and it would end May next year or so, or end April next year. So I think that's an interesting thing for them.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting if there are other drugs that are not on the VEN list now become, they expand the list, they expand the products on the VEN list, and they can fulfill that need.
And they also can teeth. They can break people's foot.
Yeah,
they mentioned
as in,
that
in terms of the contracts, the exclusive contracts.
Yeah, so it was saying not just that, but they were saying that, say the NHF has a partnership with LASD, but then LASD's supplier is having issues supplying LASD because they're like, yo, LASD, we do want to supply you, but this guy over here, he's paying more money, and he can take more volume, so we're kind of directing some of our product over there. If RA Williams is like, yo, I can supply that drug ministry so that the patients and stuff can get it, and I can even do it at a better price, and I can bring in the volumes. I have a partnership with this person who can do it. They can actually steal that business. They mentioned that's one of the things that they are hoping, hoping to do, because they're like, yo, we want to be able to manage the inventory really well so that we don't have those instances, because they could lose a contract. We shouldn't just think the good side. They could get a contract.
That's also a risk.
They could steal a contract, but if they don't manage their inventory and have good relations with their supplier, they're not paying their supplier, they can lose a contract. So that's another thing to look out for.
Yeah.
And they even mentioned that they may distribute branded drugs eventually too. They said it's not definitely, but they are looking into that, because I guess you probably have higher margins on that.
Yeah. True. Yeah. One thing I like with NHF and what they're doing is, I don't know if you know of a Quick Prescript, but it's an app you can download, and if you get your medications, if you get them at like a health center, like a public health center, or like a public hospital, of course, and those things, you can take a picture of it, upload it to Quick Prescript, and you can get a notification saying, and you choose your location where you want to pick up the medications, because there are like over 100 drug serves, and drug serve is the pharmacy that the NHF basically owns,
the government pharmacy
across the island. Yeah, the government pharmacy, and you can pick which one you want to pick it up from, and you just go on. It's the convenience is crazy to me. Like it's crazy that the government is moving. For me, the government moves very slow with technology, but I like this move. I like this push. So it's just much easier for people to get their medications.
You call it Quick Script?
Quick Prescript.
Quick Prescript. Okay, Quick Prescription, but shorten it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that we should mention is, what are they? So we mentioned, we should go into the share pools, because not all of, even though they're raising 400 million, we didn't even say a price. We didn't even say this is the price. $1. Wow.
$1.
Yeah, that's classic IPO price. What was the last IPO that wasn't $1?
IPCL.
Apex.
I think it was IPCL.
Like the $1 price just ingrained in people's heads now.
That was $2.
Yeah.
I feel like they're still suffering from that still, because it's still a good company. Their PE is below junior market average. Tomato.
Yeah. So you see here, so the share price, as we said, the price there you can buy the shares at is $1. They are issuing or creating 400 million shares, and they had, I think, 1.6 billion shares before. So when they create these shares, they're going to have 2 billion shares. The majority of the shares are available, to the public. That's 210 million shares. But not all of the shares are available to the public directly. So they have what they call the company applicants reserve share pool. That's about 30 million shares. And I think that's said that, these are some of like the workers at the company and stuff like that. If they want to get dibs on shares before, they can get it. But then I think it says that if they don't take up their shares, then the public can eventually get access to it. And then 160 million shares for key strategic partners. And they mentioned things like, I think that they define they have to define it. I think it was people who like they worked within the business, or like maybe even I think the drug manufacturers maybe. They said, oh, existing customers, business consultants to the company, suppliers of the company. So yeah, even possibly the drug manufacturers, and even Sagicor to SIJL. So, and pension funds. And you meant that sometimes I do like it when the pensions and those stuff already have it allocated. Because then if they already have it allocated, they already have, if you get all you need, then you're not going to buy on the market after, versus you don't get all you need. You have to go on the market, compete with us.
Yeah. And you know, this is one of the companies that I think pension funds would like. You know, it's needed. It's tied to Jamaica. It's healthcare, and they also spoke about a dividend policy where they plan to pay out, I think, around 25% of
up
the
to 25%.
net profit, up to 25% of the net profit. Yeah.
And we need to mention, so they're raising 400 million, and then what do they do with the money? You said it, I think, earlier. Most of the money goes towards, most of the money, 300 million of it, goes towards paying down some debt. But one of the things that I should mention that is interesting, they don't have any long-term debt.
They don't. I saw short-term debt, and I looked at the cash
it's just some short-term loans.
It's like 200 mil.
Yeah, see, long-term debts. I think this is 10 million this is correct what I'd taken out. That's very interesting. They just have some short-term loans that they want to pay back.
Yeah.
So they're essentially paying down those short-term loans. So they're gonna have not really any long-term debts. Paying down the short-term debts. And they said they want some money to work with, I think about 50 million to do some just to operate the business, and also something about some solar equipment. And they also have to pay some of the IPO fees. So, listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange is not free. You have to pay marketing fees. You have to pay fees to the JSE, JCSD, and other stuff. So, and yeah, that's essentially most of it is really just paying down the debts, that some loans that they had to take on before. So now that, I guess their point is that, well, I think I had put it in this. So you see my screen here. This here. Oops, I keep doing that. This here for April 2024, this is their financial statement. So they had about 1.5 billion in revenue and about 84 million in net profit. Key thing here is, you notice for that year, they had 36 million in finance costs. So that finance cost is related to essentially loans. So that's, they have those loans that they took out, those short-term loans that they took out, they have to be paying down that every quarter. Or I don't know what the time period is for some of them. Maybe some is every month, some is every quarter. So that essentially, I did a projection to show, for example, what would happen when they don't really have much finance costs. I mean, they probably have to do some other source of loan and stuff, but without the finance cost, for example, the profit they would have made much more money, 120 million versus 84 million. And the other thing here, I didn't actually remove the taxation charge. We should mention
I realized
that when you list on the junior market, the big benefits for the first 5 years, you pay no corporate income tax. The next 5 years, you pay half corporate income tax. So they aren't going to have to pay this taxation charge for the next 5 years if they're successful with listing.
Yeah.
So that'll be, that's one of the big benefits of listing a company.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember reading through about that was sales, right? 1.4 billion in sales. I saw that this year so far, I think the first quarter, it's a bit less than the previous quarter in terms of sales. And they attributed it to, based on what I understand, it's just them managing their receivables. They said it in a way I didn't fully understand. Receivables? It's like how much money. It's like the money people owe you, basically. So
the money you are to receive.
Yeah, it's the money. Yeah, if you are the company, it's the money you are to receive. So, how I think about it too, in terms of what they actually did was, basically, if Preston is buying a drug from me and I own this drug company, and Preston's one of my biggest customers. He's buying drugs from me and so on, but he buys it on credit, right? So he doesn't upfront the cash. I just give him the drugs and he'll give me the cash eventually,
When I
right?
sell
But
it.
when you sell, if you want, when you sell it or not, because you're probably cashy and you're probably rich, which you are, so um, but how I made this one in terms of what they did for that quarter, because they're saying it was a
Mm-hmm.
marginal decrease when compared to revenues in the same period of the prior year. And it's just to manage the receivables. It's like, let's say, you know, I think the company, let's say I would intentionally, me as Thaon Simms, and I have a lot of customers. Preston isn't my only customer. I have several customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But some of them take much longer to pay me back on credit, right? Preston will
Mm-hmm.
pay me back every month. But some people will pay me back every 3 months or 4 months or so on. And I don't want that. So I'll intentionally sell a little bit less to maybe the person over there so that doesn't pay me back immediately, you know. And it's just specifically I think to people who buy on credit because they may not pay me back. So it's like I'm trying to be more careful and only sell these drugs to people that I know can probably pay me back and that have demonstrated that they can pay me back. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what they were doing. And that's why you see a slight drop in sales, because you
Mm-hmm.
just choose to sell less on credit. And that's just so that they don't have like large what we call ECLs, expected credit loss, because if that guy over there doesn't pay me back on time, and suppose he takes like 6 months to pay me, if I'm reporting based on accounting and so on, I kind of have to take almost like a loss. It's like ECL is expected credit loss. So I have to show it on my books that he may or
Mm-hmm.
may not pay me back. I don't really know. It's 3 months in and he hasn't given me any money yet. So I have to like write that off. So in order to manage, profitability and so on, I think that's the step they took, which is a good step. Managing their
Where's the
finances as well.
notes
And
that you saw? Because I'm just noticing that their April, the most recent quarter ended April, was actually a loss.
the
I want to.
notes I saw somewhere higher up. I don't remember which page it was, to be honest. I'm gonna find it though. But I thought that was a good strategy they employed, and they're hiring people within the accounts department to ensure that his receivables management is big, especially in a company like this, like distribution companies. I realize you have to measure inventory management, receivables management. Those are huge. I'm trying to find it, Preston. I'm not seeing it, to be
Yeah, because the
honest.
same point we're saying that if they run out of inventory, they can lose business. Like they can lose, maybe possibly a contract or someone else. If someone else can supply it, they're just gonna be like, "Yep, I'll take it over." Then if you can't keep up, I'll
And
break
we've
your
been
foot.
seeing that because supply chain issues have been an issue for like right after since the pandemic. A lot of companies have had supply chain issues, so they really have to be prudent.
Oh, to explain it here. So say for Q4 2024, which is because you mentioned they have a weird quarter. There's this February, March, April.
April, yeah.
So say for Q4 2024, company recorded a loss from operations of 9.8 million. This was mainly due to additional inventory-related provisions being booked, including 6 million for one of the company's anti-infective medicines. Inventory-related provisions. Okay.
Which page is that?
82. The specific provision is not expected to recur. Also, it was a one-off, they're saying. Management has successfully negotiated a waiver of the minimum order quantity requirement for the product with the overseas manufacturer. Oh, so before, okay. We have normalized fund completion of company's move to the new operating facility. That's something that we should mention that they just moved into this warehouse that they've been building. It's like a customized warehouse in this new I don't know what you would call it. The
It's a new
New
warehouse.
Brunswick village. No. Not just the warehouse. Like there's this whole big complex where it's a mixture of. I was reading it opened recently. The New Brunswick Village, Jamaica. So Sagicor spent apparently like I think $6 billion helping to develop the New Brunswick village. There was an article, but I think the PM opened it up. I think it was like $6 billion, and so it's there. They have some apartments there, some homes, and then they also have like the industrial side. I'm trying to. I think there was a video I saw. Let me see if I can. One sec. But so they, what I understand is that what they're saying is that they customize. They essentially help build that out. They customize it and all that stuff, so that it helps them. It's like more efficient for them. I think they have like temperature control things and all that stuff.
That's probably why they want so much solar panels to bring down electricity costs. But they said that new place had almost, I think, double the inventory space.
Yeah, that's
or more than double the inventory space. So that's
you
good.
see this on my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So
New
apparently
Brunswick Village.
This initial part here is like, I think the more like the commercial side, and then in the back is the residential side. So they have like, I think, houses, townhouses and stuff like that. So I don't know, one of these buildings, I guess, is, or maybe one of the ones somewhere around here is the RA Williams one.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they just
commercial
moved into
and
that.
residential. Not a fan, but hey.
Yeah, that's the one that was like interesting. But I mean, I guess if you think about it, like, for example, I think Island Grill is there. So imagine you have Island Grill right beside your house. You can say, yo, I just want some food. Only thing I guess would be like things like the noise and stuff like that. But there's some pros to it,
And the smells, bro.
It's in St. Catherine.
I remember when I was younger and I was at church. My church was across from a bakery. And sometimes when you're young, well, I never have there. There are days when you do carry snacks and so on, so you're kind of hungry. You're smelling the bakery, bro, and you're like, yo, you're not missing anything the pastor is saying. So I mean, there are pros and cons to being close to other commercial.
Well, it's good for the business because they say, yo, maybe them just tempt you.
Yeah, good for the business, I guess.
After church, you go there.
True.
Thing is, Island Grill just set up a fan and I just blow the jerk chicken there and just say,
for real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other thing we should mention is how to apply. It is we didn't we didn't even mention who was doing so it's Sagicor doing I haven't seen a Sagicor. Have I ever seen a Sagicor IPO?
Yeah,
since I started. Which one?
Yeah, the funds.
I don't think that was I think that was before I started. We're saying like
really?
X-Fund or Select M or Select F.
Yeah, Select M.
Yeah, I think that's before I started.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So, yeah.
Select F was great. It was great.
Is it?
Yeah, bro, I made so much money off of Select F. What? I borrowed money to go into Select F.
What's the ticker?
What, Select F? Isn't it Select F?
Oh, no, it wasn't showing up. Or did I press something wrong?
I don't know. It could. I think it is Select F. But yeah, I borrowed money to go in that from my dad.
What price did it IPO at?
I have a Sagicor account. I got it at like 90 something cents. From what I remember. And I sold at $1.67.
No, but you're one of the lucky ones, though. Look, when I look at this, most of it are good. Let's not get sidetracked. But yeah, so this link is in the prospectus. This is the Sagicor e-invest platform, which is like their IPO platform, just like JMMB have a Moneyline IPO side and whatever. And you can see here, it shows the opening date, July 17th. Make sure you speak to your licensed financial advisor before applying. Also remember that even though it says closing date here, July 31st, it will likely close before. So you can also apply before July 17th. So you don't need to wait till July 17th to apply. It's almost like you can pre-apply, and then once they let it open, your application will go in. So you can apply from now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much more we could talk about with this company, actually. There's a lot more I wanted. I don't think I want to go into because it goes kind of granular in terms of medicine and so on. But I think we touched on the major things. And their plans.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've covered a lot. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below, and we'll try to get to them as well. But yeah, I think that's it. What do you think, Preston? Great episode.
Yeah, it's good for me.
RA Williams, you buying?
I have to do some more
We will see.
research.
You have to do some more research. Okay. Fair. I mean, I don't use a lot of their products. I only have that one product that I say I use, the amino pep, every now and again. But I like the company. Didn't realize how, I guess, how much I used a lot of their products in terms of prescribing them and so on. But let's see where they go. They have a growth rate. They said a compound annual growth rate of sales, for the past 5 years of like 35%, meaning the company
That's
has
wicked.
increased sales by 35% every single year on average. Right. So let's see if they can keep it up or even grow more than that, because suppose they acquire one of these competitors. So much you could talk about, but thank you guys for listening to this episode. All right, drop a like if you liked it, subscribe if you loved it, and Limitless out.
Peace.